Welcome back, everyone. We are back, and we are about to start Act 4 of Nightmare with our Vengeance Paladin. I'll go over the stats, the gear, and all that stuff here as a quick recap, where we're at, and then we'll go ahead and start out Act 4. So we'll start with our gear. Still our kind of greatest piece that we have is our Bonesnap. We dropped this from Bale and normal. I actually dropped it on this. We did one additional Bale run and we dropped Bonesnap. Or did we drop it on the first Bale run? I don't remember, but we dropped Bonesnap on Bale, and so I had Larzik punch a hole in it in normal, so we could put a Shale rune in it. So now to basically correct the attack speed issue, because that's the only real problem with this weapon, is it was pretty slow, but now it rings pretty decently fast, and as you can see, it does a ton of base damage. Has also an extra 100% damage to undead for physical damage, which is fine, and then 40% crushing blow and some resistances. We made a Hearth rune word because we have not found a other source of cannot be frozen, so we are using this also because we're not using like the sword and board variant, which you could do a sword and board Vengeance Paladin for sure. And at that point you could just use a rhyme shield, it'd be easier, but we don't have access to a shield, so we're using Hearth, and at least until we find another source of cannot be frozen. And this is basically making us pretty much immune to cold damage. Our cold resistance is maxed out, and we also have 15% absorb, so we basically don't take damage from cold effects, and if we do, it's very, very small. We just found this amulet that has damage reduced by 21. This is just a huge amount of damage reduction, and so pretty much any physical attacks that are hitting us now don't do very much at all. We still are rocking stealth. This should definitely be upgraded, ideally to something like maybe like a Lionheart, or in hell what we really want would be something like a treachery, but this could definitely be upgraded, but for now it's basically just some speed and some faster hit recovery with some poison res. Sanders, we're still using Sanders. We dropped this early on in normal. It just has a ton of faster run walk, attack rating, dexterity, strength. If we were to find some boots that had some decent faster run walk and a bunch of resistances on it, we would probably swap these out. But for now, we don't have that option, so Sanders is doing great for us. Here we found a ring. This is a decent chunk of attack rating, some dexterity, and a little bit of resistances, and some more magic damage reduced by 2. So between that and this, we have magic damage reduced by 5, and then physical damage reduced by 21. We have this belt that's just a big fire res and lightning res belt. We also have an alternative belt that is, where did it go? This guy, which is a huge amount of cold res and fire resist and life. We were using this before we made Hearth, but now that we have Hearth, we don't really need this. And then we had another belt that we also got rid of that was a big life belt. Anyway, this ring definitely needs to be upgraded. It's just a big attack rating ring. We did find Angelics in normal, the amulet, so if we were to find the Angelics ring, that would kind of be the ideal. But other than that, just like some resistances here would be great, especially going into hell. And then we have Venom Grip gloves. It's a little bit of life steal and some a little bit extra crushing blow, which puts us at 45% crushing blow, and then a big chunk of poison resist. Basically all of our poison resist is coming from stealth and venom grip, and then we just have kind of random life and resist charms and an attack rating charm, except for this guy is kind of our big deal as far as our charms go. Plus the 90 maximum damage and 58 attack rating is huge. Like, it adds a ton of damage with Vengeance, because this plus 9 is before Vengeance kicks in. So we're actually gaining like almost 100 damage from just this plus 9. So you can see how if you had a whole bunch of these, you would get an insane amount of damage. And so, as we can see, our resistances, lightning is a bit of an issue. Ideally, if we could get some like lightning here and lightning here, would be great. But you know, we're hanging in there, and as far as stats, we have more than enough strength to use Bonesnap because we're heading towards, 124. because if we decide to up Bonesnap, 124 is, I believe, the strength required for a war club or whatever it's called. Dexterity enough to. I mean, we went up with dexterity a little bit because we were also we hadn't found Bonesnap yet, so we were using things like two-handed swords and stuff that require some dexterity, and then and also hitting things is dexterity helps with that. And then everything else in vitality, we don't really care about energy. We have 88 mana, and our spell costs like 9. So mana is a bit of an issue, but we fixed that with our mercenary. Our mercenary has an insight, a partisan, so he's doing fantastic. He's got good damage, and he has only level 13 meditation aura, but got all 6 levels of critical strike, so that's pretty good. So he's damage-wise, he's doing great. He will need a better base in Hell if he is going to be really doing any damage and really surviving. But for now, he's doing all right. We found this just circular with just a ton of life on it. He was wearing a resistance helmet, but his resistances are almost close to maxed. So I figured just having a huge buff to life was better. And then he has Dark Glow, which is pumping his max resistances and giving him resist all. And then we'll go to our skills. We're going to start with combat. Vengeance. We're our Vengeance Paladin, so we have maxed out Vengeance. What this does is it takes our physical attack damage and then adds a percentage based off of that physical attack damage on top of that of each element. So, we're doing 100 to 200 damage or whatever with Bonesnap, and then adding on top of that is 3 times that amount in fire damage, 2.5 times that amount in lightning damage, and almost 2 times that in cold damage. The synergies, as you can see, are the resistance auras, and so we'll kind of take a look at those. But offensive auras, our main aura is Conviction. The minus defense really helps with hitting things, and obviously minus 70 all resistance is basically 70% more damage when we hit people with Vengeance. I guess except for the physical part, but it's close to that amount. And so that's really going to be our main aura that we're going to use like all the time. Now, for the synergies, we're doing resist fire and lightning. We got a split going on here. We're ignoring resist cold because in Hell, Conviction is not going to break any of the cold immunities, so who cares? And also, they'll die from these 2 elements when we hit them. So rather than leaning into the cold when immunities could really screw us over, we're leaning away from it. And so, because we already have some, and we still have some cold damage. The only monsters that'll really give us any kind of fits in Hell are things that are fire and lightning immune, but even then we're still doing physical and cold to them. So we don't really have to worry about immunities at all with this build, which is nice because we don't have to have a Sunder Charm, which helps us since we're using a 2-hander. We don't want that huge minus to resistances. So we're going to start Act 4 now, and let's get it going. Mana Shrine here. I hate leapers. But I'm liking how I do like that. With Bonesnap, we 1 or 2 shot pretty much all the enemies, and as you can see with the Shale Rune, we do attack pretty decently. So we also do have a pair of 10 IAS gloves that we could use, but the only reason I'm not using them is because the other thing that it rolled on it is a bunch of cold resist, which we already have Hearth. We don't need, and our cold resist is already maxed out before those gloves, so it just was basically 10 IAS, and I think the Crushing Blow and Leech and stuff like that is going to be just a little bit better for us, but you could definitely use those IAS gloves if you had them. If we found like Sanders or something, that would be really awesome. Or Bullet Fist. Something that had IAS and something else on it would be great. And while we're not just completely blowing through the game, because we're not a caster, we do move pretty quickly. We do a grip of damage. We're doing 1,000 to 1,500 per swing. With our Vengeance, and that's before Conviction is taken into account. So realistically, we're doing about 70% more on top of that, which is just a ton of damage, and we're in Nightmare. Now in Hell, you know, we're going to have a lot more levels by then, and so our synergies and our conviction will be a lot stronger, hopefully. And currently we also have 0 plus the skills. Yeah, thanks for taking the time and coming and checking the stream out. I'll go ahead and put the Discord link in the chat at some point, well, let me go ahead and put the Discord link in the chat for anybody who's interested. So anyone who's interested in joining the Discord, go ahead and follow that link, and I'll check in at the end of the stream. In the Discord, we kind of chat about whatever, and then also that's where I let everybody know, hey, I'm planning on going live in a little bit, and give everybody a heads up that you know, the stream will start up. That's also where I post links to the review streams on YouTube. I do post the videos for Diablo 2 onto YouTube afterwards when it's a playthrough stream like this. Now later on, if we end up doing some like magic finding streams and stuff, I probably won't necessarily post those on YouTube. But yeah, who knows? It's really unfortunate we rolled leapers here. They're a bit of a pain in the ass to deal with because they run around and they don't really want to fight you. I kind of wish that we had just gotten like Venom Lords or Doom Knights, but here we are. Okay, we found the next area. There's a big group here. Oh, they have mana burn. We gotta be careful. Jeez. Remember, always with your melee character, positioning is very important. If you get surrounded or they start to surround you, back up. And move around and then make them come back to you, and then you can make sure you keep a safe positioning. Alright, so for stats, we're going to keep pumping strength until we get to that 124, and then we'll start going back into vitality. And let's go a little bit more lightning damage here, and then next level we'll probably put in a conviction to get conviction up to 10. When you have like close to skills and stuff towards the end, like at end game, when you got all like awesome gear and like CTA and stuff, you don't ever need your conviction aura to go above minus 150%. Ooh, a superior war scythe, and it's ethereal. We might have the stuff that could roll that for sockets in the cube and hope to get lucky. Because it is ethereal, so it should have really good damage. So we'll take a look. Oh yeah, not if it's superior. You're 100% right. Yeah, I always forget that. That's one of the I've done that so many times where I'll pick up like a phase blade or something, and I'm like, oh, let me go ahead and roll that. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. Not superior. It's one of those weird D2 quirks, that one of the few ones that I forget. Okay, I guess a bit spooky. Let our mercenary handle him since he's got a ton of resistance. For our mercenary setup as well, we have a couple different options that you could try. Currently we're using Blessed Aim just to help with our attack rating, because we were having an issue with hitting things for a while. Now that we're a little bit more leveled up, it doesn't seem to be as much of a problem, so I think it was mostly we were a little bit under leveled for a bit there. We didn't do a ton of farming in normal before coming to Nightmare. We pretty much just did like 1 extra bale run, I think. And we did farm to some Nightmare and Dariel for a little bit. So I think we were just a touch under leveled, and since level is such a big part of the attack calculation, I think that was a big chunk of it. So we could very well switch his aid to have a different aura. My aura doesn't really work with Vengeance, so I wouldn't do that because it would only strengthen our physical damage portion, not our elemental. For like safety purposes, we could go Holy Freeze. That would be pretty strong. Kind of also like hold the monsters, prevent them from surrounding us. So there's a 2-socketer. No. I'm not going to make a lore over our hearth. But yeah, so we could definitely switch him to Holy Freeze. That would be pretty good. Or if we decided to, if we had the runes and could make a Cure helmet, we could switch him to Prayer, and then give him the meditation, cleansing, prayer combo wombo thing. That would make him basically just a giant battery for health and mana. So we have a few different options. I'm thinking that I might go and I might switch him to Holy Freeze here in a bit. Because I think we're hitting things okay. Granted, it may be we're hitting things okay because of his aid, right? So, but that's the nice thing about the mercenaries. We can always just switch it back. So, but his aid's been by our side since Act 2 of normal, so he's our dude. Some other things that we could look for upgrades. Duriel's Shell would be really good, even though we already have Cannot Be Frozen. That would switch it so it would open up our helmet slot, and it would give us a ton of resistances. Yeah, so Duriel's Shell would be a cool one. Some runes in a 3 open socket for Treachery would be really great. Or Duress, or Lionheart. Really, any of those 3 would be pretty dang helpful. Where is Visual? Okay, there's Champions. We saved him. Okay, I thought he was gonna die there for a second. Okay. Where are you at, Ijwal? Ijwal should die really fast because we have so much Crushing Blow. Even in normal, I think in normal he was a little tougher because we didn't have the Bonesnap yet. And he has a boatload of health in normal. He has the same amount of health in normal as Diablo does. There he is. Alright, so I'm going to try and kill his homies first. Oh yeah, we're chunking him here pretty good. Again, we're going to kill his friends. He dropped us nada. Okay, well, we'll get our free 2 skills. see if those rings are any good. Alright, let's take a look. Ten FCR, we don't need that. Somatic Find, we don't really need that. Ithrin, we'll go ahead and hang on to that. Get ourselves some mana potions. Oh yeah, we do have, of course, have a teleport staff on Switch, but we haven't used it yet in Act 4, so we don't have to worry about the repair bill. Alright, let's see. So for our skills, let's go up to level 10 for Conviction, and then another point in Lightning, Resist Lightning. It'll put us up to, you know, 1100 to 1600 damage. Yep, our lightning's catching up to our fire at 274. Okay, so I think we already found the stairs to the next area, didn't we? Well, if not, we'll check this way. I thought we did, though. But we'll go ahead and kill these things. Oh, hi. But yeah, so Viper Magi would also be a great find. You know, a bunch of resistances. You know, we're not super using the FCR at all, but the resistances and skills and stuff would be good. Rock Stopper, if we could find another source of Cannot Be Frozen. Like a good source of Cannot Be Frozen would be the Deaths combo, if we could find the gloves and the belt. Horizon's boots in Hell, those have Cannot Be Frozen on them, so, and I think they can only drop, they probably can only drop in Hell, I would assume so. But, so, it really hinges, our entire kind of upgrades of what we're looking for really hinges on if we find another source of Cannot Be Frozen. If not, then we're going to keep Hearth and really just look to upgrade into like Treachery or, you know, one of those armors that we talked about. Weapon-wise, things that could be an upgrade over Bonesnap would be like potentially like a champion axe. That's kind of the ultimate base for this type of character in a lot of ways, because it does very good damage and has very good attack speed. So it's kind of has a good wombo combo for the amount of stats you have to put into it. And so if you could get like a decent rune word in one of those, that would be like really good. Or if we found like I think the unique one is Messerschmitt's Reaver. Obviously we're not going to find that because that's like a very rare item, and you know, in a playthrough you're not going to find something like that. If you do, you're incredibly lucky, and GG for you. That's like if you're doing a playthrough and you find like you find a burr rune or something, like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. But I think for the playthrough purposes, actually, the Reaver would probably be even like more impactful than the rune. Trying for your account in general, Jaw would be better, but okay. Again, lightning is the thing we're not super good against, so let's be careful here. Luckily, we have our mercenary who's very good at resist all. I wish I had seen that shrine before we killed that pack, but that's alright. Healing, healing, mana, healing. Got him, need him, got him, need him, if anyone's ever seen that movie. Little Monsters from like I think it's from the 90s. It might be from the 80s. I'm like 99% sure it's from the 90s. Weaver the Unclean. Okay, we're surrounded here. Let's get out of here. We don't like being surrounded. But yeah, Little Monsters, if you've not seen that movie, has, I Howie Mandel or whatever, however you say his name. He plays a monster that lives under the bed, and he's not like malicious or anything. He's just likes to play jokes on kids and scare them because that's like what monsters do. But he befriends a kid, basically catches him, and he befriends the kid, and shenanigans ensue. And it's a really good movie. It's a great kids movie too. It is, you know, it's a monster movie, but it's not like a horror movie, right? It's not like overly violent or anything, but there's some moments that are a little scary. Some of the monsters do some like jump scare type stuff at a couple points, and the bad guy is of the movie is he can be a bit scary for kids, but it's a good kids movie. If they're a little bit older, I wouldn't show it to like a really little kid probably, if you know, unless your kid is inclined to that kind of thing. But like I was, like I saw it when I was very, very young, but I was, you know, inclined to those, you know, that type of thing. So, but yeah, it's kind of like I wouldn't say it's as good as like Monster Squad or something, but it's very, very good. Another movie that I've been meaning to rewatch lately is I was gonna boot it up the other day and watch it, but then I got distracted and something came up. I got like a phone call or something, and I think and then you know things go. Anyway, I was gonna watch Willow again. I absolutely adore that movie, and I watch it at least like once a year. One of my favorite movies from when I was a kid. I think Warwick Davis is an amazing actor, and Val Kilmer is as well, and it's just it's an awesome fantasy movie. Like, it just has cool the sword fight between Val Kilmer and Mad Mardigan and General Kale is just amazing, especially for the time. Like back then, you know, a lot of sword fights in cinema were kind of like, they're not like what we have now, right? They're not like as, you know, if you watch a lightsaber duel in a modern Star Wars thing, you're just like, holy shit! Like, so it was, you know, we didn't have stuff like that, but that fight was incredibly like visceral. And okay, we're gonna teleport out of here for a second, lure them to us again, use our terrain to our advantage. But yeah, the fight was incredibly visceral, and it just, I don't know, like every time I watch it, I'm like, it like gives me goosebumps. Like that's a big part of the movie, and I think that, you know, it's also a great story. You know, it's you know, a little person can, just because someone's small, it doesn't mean they can't do great things, type of thing. You know, yes, he has, you know, help from his tall friends, but you know, Willow's really is the hero of the story. It's kind of like Frodo, right? Like, Frodo and Sam are the heroes of the story. Yeah, they have Aragorn and Legolas and stuff as their buddies that help them along, and Gandalf. But really, at the end of the day, Frodo and Sam are the heroes, which is why there's that, you know, the ending of Return of the King in the movie when, you know, Aragorn says, "You bow to no one," right? And he bows to the hobbits because they're the real heroes. Oh crap! Zayd died. I got too busy talking about movies. I do that a lot. Anyone who's watched me for, you know, more than a couple streams, you'll see that I do that a lot. Let's refill our potions here. All right, let's get a bunch of these, and just like a couple mana potions. Just a few teleports. We'll go ahead and get our level up while we're here. Next level, we can get up to that 124, which is what we're looking for. We'll go to even out our fire and lightning damage. Get Zayd back. we're probably not gonna win. Crap. Well, not really. It was just a raw run. It's fine. I was, holding on to the Saigons because we're trying to do a solo self, and I'm not sure, trying not to use the shared stash or whatever, which is why I got the gems in here. But I doubt we're gonna find extra Saigons. If we do, we know we have Saigon's chest piece. We can go grab it, but at this point it's kind of redundant. I was hanging on to it, hoping that we would find it earlier on, but we didn't. Because if you find 2-piece Saigons, so even a couple pieces, like especially the, I find like the boots, the belt, and the gloves, and really the helmet as well, for a melee character at least, are all pretty good pieces. And if you have a couple of them, you get some pretty good bonuses, because you get like, the helmet gives you a bunch of attack rating, and the gloves give you a bunch of IAS, and the belt gives you, I think, like a pile of life or something. The boots, I believe, give you a pile of magic find. Like, you get good stuff for Saigons. Saigons is actually like, you can wear it like pretty deep into the game and it will be like good. I think Saigons is probably the best of like the entry level early game sets. Maybe Aratha's, depending, like Aratha's is way more niche if you're like, it's like designed for like, because it has like piercing and shit on it, so like if you're like a throw barb or a blade sin or something like that, you can actually use Aratha's, and actually that's pretty good, because Aratha's gives you like 1 billion resist all, so like you just kind of become like unkillable when you wear it. Saigon's kind of does a similar thing, gives you a ton of lifesteal and stuff, so those two beginner like sets are actually pretty good. Like most of the beginner sets suck, right? Like they're fine for like if you happen, like if you're doing a shared stash run and you start with all of them with a bunch of pieces or whatever, then it's fine. But like generally they're not that strong. But Saigons is and Arathas are kind of the exception to that rule. Kind of back up, let these guys come to us. I'll wait, because when they're over that lava, we can't hit them. Come on, there you go. Whack. Well, he lived. We are going to do the Hellforge, because again, it can drop a rune that could potentially be a game changer for us, especially in Hell. But we kind of are in pretty big need of a upgrade to our armor. Stealth is great, but since we're not a caster, it loses a huge amount of its value on our character, because we're just not using FCR. I mean, we do for teleporting, but like, I mean, we don't need it. We don't really, like, if that's the only thing we're using it for on a swap teleport staff, it's not like we have Enigma, right? I don't think it's that valuable, as opposed to if we had, Lionheart or something. And I believe that the damage added from Lionheart does work with Vengeance. I believe, because of its enhanced damage. I believe that works that way. I'm not sure. We'd have to look at it. Again, if you're sword and board, you could pick up this thing. This, I'll hang on to it just for the sake of argument, but this is spirit base, right? And it's also has 25% all res baked into it. Like, that would be amazing. Like, you'd never have to worry about it. That would be a huge amount of resistances, and plus the skills and a bunch of other crap. So, since we do have the Ginther's Rift, we could turn that into a spirit and run around with the Ginther's Rift and that thing, just for like a change of pace. and that would be plenty viable. I'm not probably going to do that, but I'll hang on to it just in case we want to like run around and mess around with that build for like a little bit and see kind of, so you guys can kind of see like the difference, right? Because there is a big, it does play quite a bit differently when you have a one-hander versus a two-hander, because the main thing that changes is you go from like one-shotting enemies to you're probably like two-shotting enemies, but you're attacking a lot faster because you have a, you know, Ginther's Rift is a freaking dimensional blade, so it attacks like crazy fast, and it has IAS on it. But also, in addition to attacking really fast, you do way less damage. You have a shield, and that gives you access to Holy Shield, which can give you access to max block if you really want to, and also just a ton of resistances. And so the sword and board version is much safer, but you're going to kill things way slower, right? Now against like little shitheads like this dude that pukes up these little guys, the Ginther's Rift is actually probably better, because there's just so many of them. They're like little turds, and you just want to hit them once and then die. Whereas Bonesnap's gonna be better against like big things like this idiot. All right, he's got Holy Freeze, Spectral Hit, Cold Enchant. Because of Holy Freeze does dodge, cannot be frozen, so it's kind of like really annoying. Ooh, we got an rune, okay. So that could open up some cool options for us, potentially. Because I think Shale Thol, I believe. I'll have to look. But yeah, that's an awesome find. That's why the Forge is great, because I think that's also, I think is the highest you can get in Nightmare as well, so that's also pretty good. Other things we could potentially find that would be helpful, especially as we get closer to Hell, really, and then really in Hell is what I'm thinking about, is where we would find this kind of stuff. If we find an elite base, elite two-hander with 3 open sockets, we could make a, what formerly known as Hustle, I think it's called Mania now or whatever, and make that into like a champion axe or something. That would be great, because it would attack like ridiculously fast and give us fanaticism on top of our conviction aura, which would also help our mercenary because he'll be fighting next to us, so he'll have fanaticism. That would be awesome. Grief is actually not the best weapon for this build, because the added flat damage doesn't work that way on weapons. Added maximum damage does, like this charm, but added flat damage, like on Grief, does not. So again, Vengeance is a very weird skill, so it's really easy to like get confused as to what works with Vengeance, what doesn't. The way I learned a lot of this stuff was from another channel. It's Ginger Gaming something or other. He does really great videos. He is very, very knowledgeable, and he does a lot of cool builds. And he has an entire he has a video series where he explains the ins and outs of every skill in the game. And he also has a Vengeance Paladin build that he goes into extreme detail of like, this is the stuff that actually works with Vengeance, this is what doesn't work with Vengeance. And so whenever I need like a refresher to make sure, like, is this going to actually affect my build when I'm using my Vengeance Paladin? Because I also have one that I play off stream. I'll refer to his videos. But he does great content. He also does like really good, like, you know, he covers the meta stuff, but he also covers off meta stuff, basically. The Lokabar axe, ethereal, unfortunately not socketed. If that had 3 sockets, that could be a base for, like I said, the Mania or whatever. But it's also only a Lokabar axe. It's not an Ogre axe. Ideally, we want an Ogre axe, because we want, in Hell, we want that elite base. It matters a lot. Now, if you have a very good ethereal base from an exceptional, like a partisan that's ethereal, you can kind of get away with it for a good chunk, for chunks of hell, but it still will fall off. Ideally, you want an ethereal elite base, but even a regular elite base will outpace an ethereal exceptional base, usually. I think we're going the wrong way. I think Diablo is likely over here. Yep. Because Chaos Sanctuary is always in this direction. Okay, let's go back to town and identify stuff, buy potions, all that jazz. Cool, we have another perfect emerald. Let's see if we can do Tau, Sol, or Am. Let's go ahead and make this spirit. "33% faster cast rate and 22 to vitality, 96 mana, 55 faster hit recovery, plus 250 defense versus missile, a shat ton of resistances, magic absorb, and attacker takes damage of 14. So, you're this guy. We could go like I'll show you. We'll put it on and just kind of take a look. We have this rune, which is awesome because that gives us access to Shalom Thul, which I think is Duress, right? But let's just for fun, let's put on our Ginthers and Spirit and kind of take a look and see what our damage looks like and stuff. So right now we're doing 1100 to 1650 basically. So our damage obviously dips, right? We go like 400 to 1000. So we're losing like 600 damage. But look at our resistances. Way better. And this has very fast attack speed. It also has magic damage reduced by 10, so we have a little bit of this damage reduced thing going on. But anyway, so yeah, so you could totally rock this setup if you wanted. And it would be fine, it would be safer, you'd be less likely to, die. But you lose out on a ton of damage. So, and because we're doing content here, we want to do a ton of damage because that's fun. So I think we only need to keep one of these jewels to craft blood gloves if we want them. Rune. I like the rune. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna grab a drink here and then we'll head to the river. I also do really enjoy the way the Paladin looks with Bonesnap. He just looks badass. I think I talked about it in the stream when we dropped Bonesnap, but Bonesnap is like maybe my favorite item in the game. Because I remember the first time I found it when I was a kid. I found it on a barbarian, and it was the first character I ever like beat hell with, like all the way through. Yeah, and yeah, and it was really cool. I upped it and stuff, and yeah. Actually, no, I don't think I did, because I think it was like way back in the day. Like you couldn't do that, maybe. I don't remember, but I remember the main part was I remember I found Bonesnap, and it made getting through like Nightmare even was like a breeze. I was playing a concentration barb with like maxed out mace mastery and crap. It was really fun. And so I just had like a special place in my heart for Bonesnap. Also, it just looks super cool. It reminds me of in D&D there's an item called the Wand of Orcus. Orcus is like one of the major demons. He's basically one of the primeval. He's like one of the princes of the abyss or whatever, and he has a weapon that looks like Bonesnap. It's like literally a skull on a big stick, and it's the head of a god that he like cut off and turned into Bonesnap, basically Bonesnap. But and of course he's a giant demon, so he's one-handed. But if you get it, it's actually a two-handed weapon. Usually, it depends on the edition, but it just reminds me of that, and it's just cool. All right, so now we're in the sanctuary. I'm gonna grab as many mana potions off the ground as we can, because these Spectre assholes drain our mana. See, if you're running into those, it's good to fight them in an narrow passage like that, and then also to let your mercenary tank the fire breath, because at least with our setup, he has way more resistances than I do. I have the damage reduced amulets, so physically I take like no damage, but elemental damage is kind of kicking my ass. So let him tank the elemental, and we'll tank the physical attacks. Oh geez, except for when we're amped. These Decrepify nerds are annoying. Decrepify is so good also, if you've never played Necromancer. Decrepify is incredibly broken. Do it on Bale, and then hit him with like any form of like slowed or cold damage, and he just stands there and looks at you. And he becomes like a free roll. It's kind of like the Kelpie Snare thing that we did, that I've talked about before. But you just pretty much automatically get it, because you can just... Decrepify is just a skill that you can learn. Let's go. We will open a safety TP, because it's Chaos Sanctuary. We might die. Hopefully not, but you never know. Oh geez, they spawned right on top of me. That sucks. We don't have to take that kind of abuse. Let's kill Vizier. Alright, we're gonna need some health potions to start dropping here. Let's go. Yeah, let's get more damage. After this, we're going to start going back into pumping vitality. So now we should have enough to up our Bonesnap. So we'll look up how to do that after we wrap up this chaos. Also, remember that they did fix Diablo's lightning hose in Nightmare and Hell. So it's just standing next to him and punching him in the face. It doesn't work anymore. Because his lightning will now actually hit you like it was always supposed to. So be careful when we fight Diablo, because his lightning hose is now no longer off the table. And that's, as we all know, his scariest attack. So keep these Stormcasters dead because we don't want our mana to get drained. Let them come to us. Okay. Yeah, Desace is a bit dangerous, especially when he has fanaticism, so that's why I'm fighting his nerds one at a time. He's gonna decrepify me. He's a jackass. Alright. Let's go back and get into our mercenary. And let's look up the recipe for up our Bonesnap. D2R upgrade. Unique. Let's just go to D2 Rune Wizard. D2 Rune Wizard's who I usually use. I'm not sponsored by them, but that's just where I go for stuff like this. Really, it's just easy to use and find stuff. So, Bonesnap. Yeah, so we can upgrade it to a War Club, which will require 124 strength, which we have, so we checked that already. Upgrading Bonesnap to the War Club requires Ral, Soul, and a perfect Emerald. So I don't believe we have a Soul Rune. That may be our problem, but let's look. Soul. We don't have a Soul Rune. So we could go and just farm some more Countess after we kill Diablo, because we do have the that Ral rune. Okay, so that Ral rune we accidentally dropped in here earlier. We actually need that. So yeah, anyway, we could go farm a little bit more Countess and get all the runes we need to upgrade that, because I think that'll be it should be a huge damage boost for us to do so. But let's finish out the Chaos Sanctuary first. We'll drop safety TP. Okay, these guys are extra fast. Oh, jeez! Well, that's why we dropped the portal. Yeah, that was a lot of damage very quickly. Oh, he had multiple shots. That explains a lot. Multiple shots on those fire-breathing duders. That's pretty much instantaneous death. Unless you have like completely maxed out fire res. So. Alright, that sucked. We did lose a good chunk of XP there, I think. Actually, I think if you recover your body, you don't lose as much, so... Okay. Again, we'll go over here and drop that. Shit, I didn't mean to grab that. Alright. Infector is always a bit of a pain in the ass. For melee characters, usually. And again, our fire resistance is, you know, it's only 39. So we're in a little bit of a rough spot when it comes to him. Alright, let's go fill up on potions again, and hopefully we'll be able to cruise here. Okay, we got him alone, that's good. There we go. That's what we needed. Ow. Shit. Wow, I can't believe that killed me. Well, that's super annoying. Shit. Alright, asshole, come on. So we may charge him to crushing blow him down a little bit before we start vengeancing him. Because especially since he's spamming lightning hose like an asshole. So we have gotten crushing blow. We've crushing blowed him a bunch of times now. God dang it. There's no way it killed me in 2 ticks. That's BS. Whatever. Okay. As long as we can keep him frozen, it seems to be much safer for us. Shit. Okay. Jeez. He's being a real peach today. No. Not allowed. Thank you. Okay, there's a soul rune and a battle belt. Let's take a look at this belt. Snow Clash. More cold stuff. Gives us 5% chance to cast Blizzard when struck, and otherwise doesn't really do anything for us, so it's cool, but I don't think we're gonna use it. Let's look at this twin axe. There's a great sword in here. Oops. Let's go ahead and ID and sell and all that kind of stuff. And resurrect his aid. And also we want to buy potions here before we go into the next act, because until we complete the first quest, potions are ungodly expensive over there. Here's a decent one-hander. Has some good damage on it and 2 sockets, so you can put like some damage jewels or whatever in there. So that could be a decent one. Again, Snow Clash is really cool, but it's mainly a sorceress item, as you can see. +2 to Blizzard, +3 to Glacial Spike is pretty awesome. We already have like enough anti-cold. Here's just a big sword. Okay. Let's go back and grab these last couple things here. And also refill our books too. So here's a great axe, fast attack speed, enhanced damage, all this kind of stuff. This is the super upgraded version of this. The champion axe is the one that's what we're looking for eventually. Here's a war fork again. Level 3 power strike charges is weird, but anyway. Let's double check the what we can do with an rune. Go search rune. So looks like, yeah, duress. Let's see. Do we want to make a duress? Let's look at what duress would give us. Shale soul. So let's go. We don't have the shale. Yeah, so we need a shale rune. This would give us 40% faster hit recovery, highlight cold damage, 15% more crushing blow, so that'd put us up to like 70% crushing blow. Some lower stamina drain against, again, 30 cold res, plus 15 to all res, and then some enhanced damage. So if we can get a shale rune, that's our next upgrade for sure. Okay. So let's do this. Let's sell this stuff. And let's get some potions going. And get our books refilled and our keys refilled, all that jazz. And then let's go to Horadric. Now, before we do Horadric, I just wanted to get the portal open. I am actually gonna go back to normal, or not back to normal, back to Act 1, and run some Countess for a little bit, because I want that shale rune, and, yeah. Other rune words we could go for, if we wanted the, so let's go to rune words, item type, let's see, we're switching just by level. Not spirit. Radiance, no. Could make a black, but that doesn't have any damage on it, so we don't want that. Ground, temper, hearth, cure, bulwark, memory, smoke, splendor, harmony, melody, hysteria. Hysteria or mania. Hysteria would be the armor. We prefer that on a weapon. Lionheart we need a foul rune, so that's not really gonna happen. Unless we get lucky at our next forge. Treachery would have taken Lem Rune, and that would be the other upgrade we would really want. That or the Lionheart. Okay, so we just want to farm that Shale Rune, and so hopefully we'll find it, and without having to do a whole pile of runs. But this is the thing you always want to do when you're playing through, especially as like a melee character. Oh crap, I don't know where the tower is. I forgot we went back to normal at one point. Let's charge around and we'll find it. There it is. Okay. You always want to keep keeping an eye out and thinking about keeping an eye out for upgrades and thinking about what upgrades you're close to having as far as rune words. Like, because if you're close, like for example, since I wouldn't really have put a whole lot of thought into the duress but we dropped a number in, right? So it's like, oh, okay, now we have the hard part. Now let's look at what we can do with that. So you always want to be keeping an eye out for those upgrades, especially when playing a melee character, because obviously getting gear upgrades with like plus the skills and stuff and more FCR helps when you're a caster, but the upgrades that you feel them way more when you're a melee character, just because the power of a melee character generally is lower. And so you're really gonna feel when we up this Bonesnap, we're gonna feel it, right? So we need, that's the other thing we need. We need a soul rune. So we actually need to get a soul and a shale, because we need our soul. We need the soul rune to upgrade, and then we need the shale for duress. And then, if we get to hell and we get like a co-rune or something, then we can think about making mania, or if we get a Lem Rune, we can think about making a treachery. Some other things that would be cool to find, Lay on Hands would be great, even though the damage to demons does not work with Vengeance. But the 20 IS and the crap ton of fire resistance would be good. Hellmouth would be great, because giving this or not Hellmouth, maybe it is Hellmouth. The gloves that give you a chance to cast enchant, that would be great. There's a cleaver, that's a one-handed axe, that would be a decent base potentially for the one-hander with the shield version. But yeah, we always want to be keeping an eye. You always want to be thinking about keeping an eye out for upgrades when you're playing these melee characters. Obviously, you do this. You still want to keep an eye out for upgrades when you're playing a caster. But like I said, casters get so much of their value just from like plus to skills. So you can just making a lore is a big buff. That spirit that we made is a big buff. Whereas with the melee characters, it's a little bit more. Oh, I found a new weapon? Okay. Oh, I found a rune that makes me close to this cool rune word? Okay. Like, it hits different when you're a melee character. Or, I count throwing and shooting in that as well, right? Like, Amazon is a melee character. If you're like a Boazon. Okay, we didn't get a shale or a soul. We got an Ethrun, which we can probably just throw in the stash. Or throw in the shared. We don't need it. so we need, and then so we got these two, and then we need Ral's Soul and the Emerald. Yeah, let's just send this to the shared. We don't really need it. Okay. And remember, when farming the Countess, when you're looking for runes, you want to have it on players 1. That way she has the best chance of dropping runes because of her weird drop table. Because it's a special drop table. If you're farming her for keys, then you would crank the player's count up. Keys, obviously, if you ever get to that point where you're like wanting to do Ubers and you need to farm keys, player 7 is the fastest way to farm keys if you can kill the things quick enough. For example, I will farm, a lot of times I'll farm the Countess and the Sorcerer on the Summoner in Arcane on player 7, but I rarely will farm Neelathak on player 7 just because he's so dangerous. I do have the dangerous peace ring, so he can't corpse explode, so that really helps the danger of him, but getting to him is still pretty dangerous because there's just a lot of like crazy enemies in there. So I usually farm him on players 3 just for like safety purposes. But the higher player count, the faster you'll farm the keys. And let's just hop over this wall. Ort Soul. Okay, there's a lore, an entire lore right there. That's so if you needed that or wanted a lore, lore gives you 30 lightning res and +1 to skills. So that would be a pretty decent one. I think it also gives you a little bit of damage reduced or something, but which actually could potentially be good for us. But again, we need our hearth. We have to have Cannot Be Frozen, especially going into Act 5 where there's a ton of cold stuff. Like those big creepy dudes in the caves and stuff like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this once we found the soul rune. Boom. Alright, so now we have our War Club version. So let's take a look at our damage now. Boom. Yeah, our minimum is now more than our maximum was, because our maximum was like 1600. So now we're doing basically 2,000 to 3,000 damage per swing. We basically gained 1,400 damage just by upgrading this, which, as you can see, that's the strength of Vengeance. Our physical damage actually only went up by like 80, but because we have so many, it adds a huge percent for each element. It adds up a lot. So that's why this, even like this 9 here, adds quite a bit, because it's just the way the multipliers work. Yeah, so that's a massive damage increase for us. Massive. We're gonna kill things very easily now. And at some point, like when we're in hell, I'll look and see what it takes to upgrade it to the final version, which will require 225 strength. And it's going to be pretty expensive. I think it will be like a pole run or something. So we probably won't be able to do it, but we'll look at it anyway. But this base is pretty dang strong. So unless we find something really crazy, this should carry us to the end of the game. The main thing we need to worry about going into hell is getting our resistances sorted out. So the other thing we could look into making is getting a Lum rune and making a smoke. But I think Treachery will actually end up being better in the long run if we can get a Treachery, because Fade proc. Fade gives, when Fade is active, you get a huge amount of resist all, and you also get the physical damage reduction, a ton of it. So grab these super healing potions. So that's going to be our, that would be a good future upgrade for us as well, would be Treachery. But the rest should be also very good, right? And again, if you're doing the sword and board version, keep an eye out for, you know, those good one-handers, which so there are a lot of in this game. And just mainly you're going to want to rock that spirit shield that we made. Or a rhyme shield. If you have, for example, like if you found a rock stopper helmet and you wanted to run rhyme shield for kind of be frozen and then use the rock stopper to basically have like never worry about resistances again. It'd be basically the same thing, right, as running the spirit. Now, the most ideal thing is if we were to, in like Hell Andariel, drop a Ravenfrost. That would be 2 IO runes, so that, okay, so those are helpful because those can make those cool 3-socket helmets. Like Cure and that kind of stuff. So we'll hang on to those 2 IO runes as well, but pretty much everything else we find that's not like something that we're specifically looking for, we're just going to throw into the shared stash at this point. Or you could sell if you wanted, but I would recommend holding on to runes. Because you never know. Especially like Ral runes I always hang on to because you use them for crafting amulets. Like endgame amulets. Those IOs in here. Keep the Ort rune. Alright. Now Shale is not one of the hard. I think it's a decently difficult one for her to drop. I think Soul. No, IO is the highest she can drop in Nightmare, I believe. So Shale and Soul are both before that. And we already got the Soul, so Shale run. Hopefully we get it this run. If we have to do a few, it's fine. You also could put this off and wait until Hell. So like for example, if we do a few runs and we just aren't finding it, we could wait till Hell. Waiting till Hell has the advantages of when you farm the Countess and Hell, she has chances of dropping even better stuff. But also, it's a lot more dangerous to get to in Hell because the archers and stuff are pretty scary in Hell, and these assholes. But you're actually gaining experience and stuff for killing them, whereas here we're not really gaining anything for killing these things. So there's definitely pros and cons to doing it either way. And also the main one way we wanted was this the damage increase with the upgrade, and that's the one we got. So because we basically doubled our damage, like very close to doubled our damage, just by finding that soul rune. A lot of champions right there. That was interesting. Especially the way champions spawn. That's kind of interesting that there was that many of them. Champions counted as an elite pack, but they don't count as one elite pack. Each champion counts as an elite pack. So the fact that there's the Shale run. Man, we're so good at this game. Ask and ye shall receive. Let's go. You know what? I'm starting to believe this streamer luck thing is true, because that never would have happened to me if I was playing by myself. I would have been farming that thing for an hour. Okay, so now we have Shale Thul. Thul. So we have now we just need to find a good 3-socket base for our chest piece, and then we have Duress. Or it's not Duress. Or yeah, Duress. We And we could, if we need to, we can go shop one in Act 1 or 2 of normal. We're not going to do that right this second. I'd rather just find like ideally a Cuirass, or a great Halberd would be great too. But that's not going to be until hell. But basically anything like breastplate or lower, like looking, but like the upgraded versions would be great. Cool. I should probably grab some mana potions because I'm probably gonna need them. Yeah, $1,000 here till we do that first mission, which I think is probably gonna be the rest of this stream. Is probably, I don't know if we're gonna completely beat Act 5. We'll see how it goes. I'm feeling pretty good, and I don't have. These guys are a little spooky. And we're dropping frames or not. I always drop frames sometimes when I come out. No, I always sometimes. That's a stupid way of saying that. But I tend to drop frames when coming outside of Horadric for some reason. Definitely some jewelry upgrades are in order. But see how I mean about the reduced damage thing? No, those guys don't do... They hurt really bad because there's so many of them hitting you. But when I have reduced damage reduced by 21, the physical part of that arrow is basically not doing anything to me. And so I'm only really getting hit by the fire part, which still hurts, but it hurts way less than it normally would have, because the individual hits aren't that big and they're being reduced by so much, if that makes sense. Whereas, you know, getting hit by 10 arrows that do 50 damage reduced by 21 is, you're taking way less damage than like just one big attack for 500, right? Because the reduction is like a higher percentage or whatever. If you catch my drift. I could go into the math behind it, but I'm gonna assume that that's not necessary. But if anyone ever wants me to, I'm happy to explain stuff like that too. Because fun fact, I used to tutor in college for various classes, but the main one I tutored for was health data analysis and statistics, which is basically math for nurses. I tutored that for 5 years or more. And I really enjoyed it. Watching people learn is like a really, really awesome experience. And a lot of people struggle with math, so being able to help them was really cool. Alright, these guys are kind of lighting my mercenary up, but he's super poisoned, so... Yeah, these guys basically don't do anything to us, those little gremlin dudes. To kind of go along the theme of our amulet, finding a Gladiator's Bane would be insane, especially if it rolled max, because Gladiator's Bane can roll 20 physical and 20 magic damage reduction, on top of just a shitload of defense and stuff like that. There's a few other things it rolls, but if with this amulet and with Gladiator's Bane, we would be taking like no damage per hit. Especially from physical, and then from magic, we'd still take a hugely reduced amount because of the Gladiator's Bane itself. Storm Shield, if you're doing the sword and board version of this build, is kind of a similar thing because it has a huge amount of physical damage reduced. just in general, those types of items can be pretty... Ooh, war boots! Let's go! Yeah, we take those. Alright, let's go. Kill Eldritch real quick. Activate the portal. There you go, Eldritch. Like these spear guys too. Normally these guys really hurt when they, but we don't really care because we just have so much damage reduced. Okay, we'll grab these sharkskin gloves as well because our gloves could definitely still be use an upgrade here. Oh, that's where my mana potions went. Okay, let's go back and talk to Mala and get the reduced vendor prices. And let's identify these gloves and these boots. And again, now we've gotten Eldritch, we could definitely farm Eldritch for some levels if we want. We are level 53, we could farm him all the way up to like 60 something if we wanted. Let's take a look. So, okay, this is a really, really good jewel. Well, not like, it's not like insane, but I mean, 29 cold res and 6 energy that's nothing to scoff at. So, we'll actually hang on to this because not necessarily for us, but it might be helpful for our mercenary at some point. And these are potentially like best in slot boots. 15% crushing blow on top of what we already have, which is like 45%. That puts us up to 70% crushing blow. 15% deadly strike, chance of open wounds, a shot ton of defense, and 30% faster run walk. So we are going to have to upgrade our strength a little bit more, one more level at pumping into strength in order to use the Gore Riders over the Sanders. But that's an insane find. And let's look at the gloves. Not great. They're not bad, but they're not great. Okay, so let's that's cool. You're that by now. Again, we have this guy as well. If we ever find Cannot Be Frozen in a different form. Gemmed Skullcap carried us early game for helping us find items. So, all right, let's save an exit and let's farm Eldritch a little bit, and that'll probably be. We'll see how I feel. That might be where we end off after farming some Eldritch, but we may play on. Upgrading the Bonesnap really got me kind of hyped, so I'm kind of thinking. About just playing on. Let's try players 5 for Eldritch. This should be okay. Because again, our damage is nuts. Oh yeah. Ooh, a large charm. Let's go ahead and heal. She just runs, of course. So for our skill, let's go lightning damage. Let's go here so we can switch to our Gore Riders. Yeah. Dope. Sanders, thank you for your service, but your services are no longer required. So, we will see if this charm is any good. 80% fast shape recovery, 4% magic find. That's not terrible. It's not anything to write home about, but oops. I think the 8%, whatever the heck, is actually pretty good, but. Let's kill Eldritch a few more times. Try 1 player's 8. See if we can get a few levels out of this. We may have just spawned him on players 5. Whoops. Yeah, he's probably players 5. Yeah, that's right though. His aid, please. Alright, you guys are assholes. Ah, it's cursed. As a son. Oh my god, they killed my mercenary because it's cursed. What an asshole. That's annoying. We would have been fine if not for that cat dude that snuck up on us and cursed us. Never trust him. Can't trust cat people. You son of a bitch. Okay. Now, aside from getting screwed by a curse again, we should be able to level up here, get some levels pretty quick by doing this. So. Again, Eldritch is just one of those places. Eldritch and Pendleskin are both great places to just like jam out a few levels. Battle Sister Serena and Beetle Burst are also pretty good. Rakanishu in Act 1, as long as they're close to the waypoint. But Eldritch is just particularly good because him and Shank are both like always right next to this waypoint. So. Whereas a lot of the other ones, like, if you get a good map, you can get them right next to the waypoint, but they're not guaranteed. Whereas these two idiots are, and Pendleskin is. Hazaid, would you like to participate, please? Thank you. And again, we're keeping our eyes open for 3 open socket armors. Potentially like a mage plate would be fantastic. We need like half a level there. I think Pindleskin's a little bit more dangerous, just because they have charge. So sometimes if you go in there, if you don't like jump in and wreck their face, they will. Oh my God, that's yeah. We're not dealing with that. Yeah, sometimes you just get murdered in this game. It's ridiculous. He died like so fast. At first I was like, oh, he'll be alright, then oh, never mind. Even with maximum fire resistance, he's just getting completely curb stomped. Alright. So hopefully those guys don't spawn again. A couple of those guys I can handle, but a billion flaming arrow skeletons I'm not a fan of. Extra fast cold enchanted. That's the thing too about Eldritch is he's easy because his thing that he always rolls is extra fast, which he doesn't really take advantage of. Whereas like Rakanishu is always lighting enchanted. That's pretty dangerous. Beetle versus a beetle. That's pretty dangerous. So let's go. Let's get this up to 100% resist all minus, and then we'll go back to the other. These the damage synergies. So we'll do this a few more times, try and get a few more levels, and then we'll probably call that for the end of this stream. But we made a lot of progress in this episode so far. Upping the Bonesnap obviously is the biggest thing. Finding Gore Riders is insane. I literally only have like 3 pairs of these things. So like this character is, I mean he's a paladin, he's a holy man, he's blessed by God or whatever. He's apparently so, because he's just dropping the best stuff, you know. We only had to do 2 rounds of the Countess to get our runes that we were really wanting. Let's grab this amulet, because our amulet is, like... Our amulet's good, but... Yeah, we may need resistances moving in forward. We do have that 14 all-res amulet in our stash still, that we could switch to if we really need to. But anyway, as far as cannot be frozen things, the ideal thing that we could find would be either Horizon's boots, but really Ravenfrost. Ravenfrost would be the best because that would give us it gives us cannot be frozen, but it also gives us a shitload of attack rating because it gives you a bunch of attack rating and then a bunch of dexterity on top of it. So finding Ravenfrost would really open up our build options to like what we how we want to, you know, move forward. Okay, so we gained about a quarter of a level there. And actually, unfortunately, I just got a business call. that I have to attend to, or an email that I have a business call I have to attend to. So I am going to have to end the stream here. So I apologize for that. I was planning on killing Eldritch a few more times. But if you're following along at home, that's what I would recommend doing. Killing Eldritch a few times, just getting a few more levels, maybe get up to, like I said, you can farm him realistically all the way up to like 60. And get a few more levels under your belt, hopefully get some drops. He can drop some decent items, and hopefully that 3 open socket chest piece will drop off of him, and then we can make our dress. But thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and you know, this whole streaming thing has been really fun for me. It really gives me something like to look forward to every day, basically. Why can't I minimize my screen? But I'm really enjoying the streaming and hanging out with you guys and chatting with you, and you guys, and the people who've joined the Discord. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. So, you know, I look forward to seeing you again. I should be streaming tomorrow. I don't have any. I have an interview in the morning, but other than that, I have no prior engagements. So, see you guys tomorrow afternoon. Have a good one.